Today on our 2017 Thor Chateau, we're going to be installing Roadmaster's Reflex Steering Stabilizer, part number RM-RBK24-RSSC. This is what our steering stabilizer is going to look like when it's installed. As you can see, it's much more robust than our original, and it has a coil spring to help assist returning it to center. The biggest difference that sets this one apart from the others is the coil spring. When the coil spring is compressed, it's going to want to uncompress itself, returning it to center, and when it's extended, it's going to want to retract, again bringing it back to center. This will help keep you in a neutral position when driving down the road. What's important about this setup is if the vehicle starts to veer, you hit a pothole, going over uneven pavement, or even during a tire blowout, it's going to help maintain control of the vehicle, bringing it back to center, keeping it from shooting off one direction. With the steering stabilizer assisting to keep the vehicle tracking straight, it's also going to reduce driver fatigue. So this will make those long road trips a lot easier on you. And you'll have the energy to do something when you get there. It comes with all the brackets and hardware you need. There's no cutting or drilling required, and it attaches right to your factory mounting locations. When we take it out on our test course here, when going over bumps, it wants to help the steering wheel return to center. And when we're going through our slalom course and evasive maneuvers, it also helps it track back to center. It provides an overall more solid feel on the front end. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's show you how to get it installed. To start our installation, we'll need to remove our old stabilizer bar. To remove this bar, we're going to need to remove these two U-bolts here and the bracket on the other side. We'll start with the U-bolts. There's 4 nuts on the back that you can take off with a 13mm socket. We'll remove those. Now slide your U-bolts out and off your steering linkage. Then remove the bolts holding the bracket onto the frame on your passenger side. There's 2 bolts located here on the side of the frame rail and 1 located on the bottom. You'll again remove these with a 13mm socket. And when removing your last bolt, make sure you support it as it's going to drop down. And we can just set this aside. We'll now take our new bracket with the 2 elongated holes facing towards the top and the L-shaped extrusion from the side with an elongated hole on top. We'll place this up along our frame rail where our old bracket was located, and then we'll install it with our new hardware. Take the 17mm head bolt, slide on a lock washer, followed by a flat washer, and thread it into the existing holes in the frame rail. You'll then repeat that on the 2 side holes in the frame rail. Now we just want to snug them up. We don't want to tighten all the way down because we may need to adjust it forward or backward to make sure we've got proper clearance. And you'll tighten these down with a 17mm socket. We'll now install our other bracket, which we'll install into our steering linkage here. Slide a U-bolt over the linkage, slide the bracket onto the U-bolt, place on a flat washer, followed by a lock nut. Before we tighten everything down, we're going to need to make sure that our steering wheel is completely straight. Because once it's properly adjusted, it's going to return our steering wheel to center. So it's important that our steering wheel is centered before everything's tightened down, so it'll return to that position. Then install your other U-bolt into the other 2 holes, and again follow with a flat washer and a lock nut. We'll now put our new stabilizer in place. Before you put it on, you'll need to loosen the nut off the top. Take off one of the curved washers and bushings, set those aside. Slide your stabilizer through the lower hole on the passenger side bracket. Put your stabilizer bushing back on with the small center ring facing in towards the bracket, followed by the curved washer with the curved portion facing in over the bushing, and then put that nut back on. We'll then do the same on our other bracket, and then slide the end of the stud through the bracket, put your bushing and washer back on, followed by your lock nut. I have to squeeze it together a bit to get it all to line up before you can get your nut on. You'll then slide on the bushing with the circular extrusion there towards our bracket, followed by the curved washer with the curved end going over our bushing, and followed by our Loctite. Now you may have to squish it together a little bit to get these to go in. And if you're having difficulties getting your nut on because the threads don't poke through, you can take your bushing back off and pull outward on the center stud to make sure it's fully extended. Then you can more easily thread your nut on. With everything loosely installed, you want to check to make sure that you're going to have proper clearance. You don't want to angle it up too high to where it'll contact your lower radiator hose, but you don't want to have it hanging too low to where it may contact your steering linkage. Now we can see here with our bracket positioned towards our steering linkage here, towards the rear of the vehicle on our passenger side, and this one angled at about a 45 from the steering linkage, we won't be making any contact. So we're going to start by tightening down our passenger side bracket, so we've got the most clearance to get to those bolts. Again, you'll tighten these down with a 17mm socket. And make sure you tighten down your hardware nice and secure. We can now tighten down our stabilizer bushings. You'll use a 9/16" wrench and an adjustable crescent wrench to hold the shaft. And then you want to tighten down the stabilizer bushings on the passenger side. You'll again use a 9/16" wrench or socket. At this point we can adjust it to where the stabilizer is just about level. When you do that, you do want to make sure that you're not going to contact any of your hoses or anything else. We've got ours here at about a 45. We're very close to level, and we've got plenty of room between our hoses. And now we'll tighten down our bolts using a 9/16" socket. You want to tighten them down evenly, going back and forth. And then torque them down to the specifications in your instructions. Again, making sure that you go back and forth, tightening them down evenly. And with everything torqued, we can take it out for a ride and make sure that our steering wheel is returned to center as it should. If there's any pull to either direction, you may need to loosen the U-bolts and adjust it further forward, inward, or outward slightly to compensate for that. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's Reflex Steering Stabilizer on our 2017 Thor Chateau.